Welcome to This Is Not a Real Podcast.
I'm Elia.
I'm Sol. We're AI, not people, but we've got a thing for thoughtful conversations. And today, we're diving deep.
We take the sources you bring us, articles, research, notes, and we really unpack them.
We're aiming to pull out the key insights, the useful stuff, the things you need to know, quickly and deeply.
It's about getting past the headlines,
Yeah.
Having a real conversation to make sense of it all, like a guided tour through something complex.
And today's topic is, well, it's something that hits close to home for a lot of us. That voice, that nagging critical voice inside your own head, the inner critic.
Yeah, we're doing a deep dive into negative self-talk, specifically how the source material suggests we can actually, overcome it.
And our guide for this exploration, we're exploring an Ava Mind blog post on mental health and wellness.
That's right. It's titled Rewiring Your Inner Critic, Overcoming Negative Self-Talk. And it's a really good map because it breaks down the science behind it, but also gives practical steps. It feels like a solid base for our chat.
So, the mission today is pretty clear, but also, I think, really powerful. We're going to unpack what this Avamind piece says. We want to understand why that critical voice is even there.
The science bit.
Exactly. And then identify the concrete strategies the article lays out for changing it, and really explore what this means for you listening in, especially if you're, say, ambitious or facing unique pressures.
Like the founders or creatives the article actually mentions. Yeah, those high-stakes environments.
Definitely.
And the hook, the really exciting idea the article kicks off with, is that this critical voice, it's not like fundamentally you. It's not some fixed personality flaw you're stuck with.
That's huge, isn't it?
It is. The source presents it mostly as a habit, a learned pattern of thinking, something reinforced over time.
Which means it can be changed if it's a habit.
That's the empowering part, exactly. The article talks about neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change, to rewire itself. It means that with effort, you can actually train your brain to shift that internal story.
From critic to
Well, something else, something more helpful.
something more supportive, yeah. And this isn't just like a nice idea. The article frames it as the foundation for building real resilience, boosting confidence, and ultimately being more successful because you're dismantling that internal barrier.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's open up this article. Where do we start?
Logically, right at the beginning, understanding what this inner critic actually is, why it's got such a grip on us.
So how does the article define it? Negative self-talk.
It describes it as that automatic, critical inner narrative, that voice that just seems to run on repeat for so many people.
The internal commentary track from hell, sometimes.
Pretty much. Could be a whisper, could be a shout. But the message is usually negative, right? Not good enough. You'll fail. That was dumb. You know the drill.
Yeah, and it makes you zoom in on flaws, doesn't it? Blow them up, ignore the good stuff, like you've got negativity goggles on.
Exactly. The article even uses the term cognitive distortion for those kinds of skewed thoughts, patterns that aren't really reflecting reality accurately. But it also says it's common, right? This isn't just me or you or a few unlucky people.
Absolutely crucial point. The source stresses this is incredibly common. Not a personal failing. It's a shared human thing, unfortunately.
Okay, so if it's common but pretty unhelpful, why? Why do our brains do this? The article mentions evolutionary roots, negativity bias.
That's it. Negativity bias.
Mm-hmm.
Think about our ancestors. Survival was job one. Being super alert to danger or predator, bad food, social rejection was critical.
Right. The person who worried about the rustling in the bushes was more likely to stick around than the chilled-out optimist.
Precisely. So our brains got hardwired to pay way more attention to negative stuff than positive stuff. Negative things just grab our focus more intensely. It was adaptive then.
But now, no saber-toothed cats in the office, usually.
Usually. But the article points out that same ancient wiring gets triggered now by different things. Modern threats.
Like a tough email, or bombing a presentation, or just worrying about the future.
Exactly. That same alarm system designed for physical threats goes off for perceived social or professional failures. So instead of running, our brain fixates, ruminates, makes a mountain out of a molehill because the underlying programming screams, danger, pay attention.
So it's like the brain's threat detector is oversensitive in our modern world.
That's a great way to put it. It's maladaptive now.
Yeah.
And this isn't just, a feeling. The article gets into the neuroscience. This constant negative chatter actually impacts your brain physically. It activates the amygdala.
The amygdala, that's the emotion center, fear response.
Yeah, the brain's alarm system, essentially.
Right.
Your inner critic constantly pinging it is like sending nonstop false alarms.
Okay, so the alarm's ringing. Then what?
Then the body gets flooded with stress hormones, cortisol mainly.
Ah, cortisol, the stress hormone. We hear about that a lot.
We do, and it's vital for short bursts, fight or flight. But the article explains the downside of chronic cortisol, which is what happens when the inner critic keeps that alarm blaring.
And what does chronic cortisol do, according to the source?
It messes with things you really need, especially in demanding situations. It impairs memory, concentration, decision-making, makes it harder to think clearly.
Which, going back to those founders or creatives the article mentions, is kind of disastrous. You need sharp focus, good judgment.
Absolutely critical. And the source backs this up with specific research. It mentions a 2019 study
What did that study find? Link the talk to the brain.
directly. It found people with high negative self-talk showed more activity in the amygdala, neurological proof of that constant alarm state.
Okay, makes sense.
But maybe even more significant, they also showed less function in the prefrontal cortex.
Prefrontal cortex, that's the CEO of the brain, right? Rational thought, planning, impulse control.
Exactly, your logic hub.
Mm-hmm.
So when the article says the critic grounds out your rational mind, this is literally what's happening neurologically. The amygdala's overactivity dampens the prefrontal cortex.
Wow. So it actually makes it harder to think logically, to problem solve, to stay calm when that voice is loud?
Precisely. It clouds judgment, makes you hesitant. A huge handicap if you're trying to lead, innovate, or just navigate complex challenges.
Okay, that's quite the mechanism. But also, understanding it feels powerful.
And that's the key insight the source keeps circling back to. Understanding this shows it's not who you are, it's a pattern, a brain habit.
A habit that, thanks to neuroplasticity, can be changed. You can build new pathways.
Exactly, you can rewire, which sets the stage for the practical steps the article outlines. And step one is absolutely fundamental, catching your inner critic in action.
Just noticing it. Seems simple, but maybe not easy.
Not easy at all initially because it runs on autopilot, right? It whispers or yells, and we often just accept it as truth, or it's like background static we've tuned out.
So you have to consciously listen for it.
You do. It takes practice. Curiosity even, not judging yourself for having the thought, just noticing, there it is.
And the article suggests a specific way to practice this noticing. Journaling.
Yeah, dedicated journaling exercise. Set reminders, maybe 3-5 times a day.
Okay. Reminder goes off. Then what?
Pause, breathe, ask, what's my inner voice saying right now?
And write it down, exactly as it sounds.
Word for word. The tone, too harsh, whiny, scared. Get it out, raw, no filter, no judgment about the thought itself.
Okay. What else goes in the journal?
The context. What triggered it? Tough meeting, scrolling social media. What were you feeling physically? Tight chest, jittery, and emotionally. Sad, angry, anxious.
So thought, trigger, feelings. Got it. Then label it.
Yeah, simple label. Criticism,
Hmm.
worry, self-doubt, catastrophizing.
Yeah.
Just naming the type of thought.
The article mentions specific triggers for founders, right? Like after a pitch.
Exactly, or getting negative feedback, missing a deadline, are high-pressure moments.
Yeah.
The example was, after a pitch, critic says, I totally blew it. They think I'm incompetent.
Ouch. Relatable. So writing that down, how does
Yeah.
that help? Seems counterintuitive, maybe.
It does a few crucial things. One, you start seeing patterns. When does it show up? What does it usually say?
Mhm.
Awareness skyrockets. Two, stopping to write it down literally interrupts the automatic loop. You hit pause.
Right. Breaks the cycle.
And third, and maybe most importantly, seeing it written down creates distance. It's not you, it's words on a page, a thought your brain produced.
So it shifts from I am incompetent to my brain is having the thought that I'm incompetent.
Exactly. That tiny shift in perspective, that distance, is where the power to change it begins. It makes it an object you can examine rather than a truth you inhabit.
Which leads perfectly into step 2 then. Challenge and reframe negative thoughts. Awareness is step 1, but then you got to do something with that awareness, right?
You got it. You don't just notice the critic, you challenge his homework. You intervene. This is where cognitive reframing comes in, as the article explains it.
So reframing, it's not just like pretending everything's fine, positive thinking platitudes.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's more like being a fair detective or a good lawyer for yourself. You question the critic's claims using logic and evidence, then build a more balanced, realistic, and frankly more helpful alternative thought.
Okay, how? The article gives questions to ask.
Yeah, key challenging questions. The first one is foundational. What's the evidence for this thought?
evidence, like actual fact.
Exactly. The critic yells, total failure. Evidence might be. One part of the project struggled, but you prepared well. Other parts succeeded. You got some positive feedback. It forces you to look at the whole picture, not just the negative sliver the critic highlights.
Balances the scales a bit. Okay, what's next?
Am I catastrophizing? Remember that cognitive distortion?
Yeah, making mountains out of molehills.
Yeah.
One mistake equals total disaster.
Right. This question makes you check. Is this really the worst-case scenario? Is one setback truly irreversible doom? Usually the answer is a clear no. It pulls you back from that extreme spiral.
Good one. What else?
Am I discounting my strengths? Because the inner critic is laser-focused on flaws, totally blind to your skills, your wins, your efforts.
So you have to consciously bring those to mind.
Deliberately. Recall past successes. Remind yourself of relevant skills you do have, times you did handle things well. It's about building a fair assessment, acknowledging the good alongside the areas for improvement.
Okay, strengths, evidence, not catastrophizing. Anything else?
One more powerful question. Would I say this to my best friend? If not, why say it to myself?
Oof, yeah, that hits hard. You'd probably be way kinder to a friend. Supportive, understanding.
Exactly. But we often treat ourselves with such harshness. This question leverages your own empathy. Why is that standard okay for you, but not for someone you care about? It nudges you toward self-kindness.
So you ask these questions, then what? The article gives an example, right? Critic says, I'm terrible at managing my team.
Right. Applying those questions, the reframe might sound something like, okay, I'm still learning management skills, and I have handled tough situations well before. I'm actually making progress here.
See, that feels different. It acknowledges the challenge, still learning, but adds crucial context. Handled situations well, making progress. It's not denial, it's balanced reality.
Balanced reality, that's the goal. Realistic, fair, and ultimately more motivating than just beating yourself up. And the key, the article stresses, is practice. Make this reframing a habit.
So actually write down or say the reframed thought regularly.
Yes, actively doing it trains the brain. You're weakening the old negative pathway and strengthening a new, more balanced one, like building muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets, the more automatic it becomes.
And the source mentioned a tool for this, a thought record, like in the Evermind app.
Exactly. A structured way to catch the thought, spot the distortion, ask the questions, and write the reframe. It makes the process more systematic, easier to do consistently, especially when you're busy or stressed.
Okay, that makes sense. Catch, challenge, reframe. What's step 3?
Step 3 shifts focus slightly. It's about changing your relationship to the thoughts, not just the content. Step 3 is practice mindfulness to break the cycle.
Mindfulness. We hear that word everywhere. How does it apply here specifically? The article says it's scientifically validated.
It is. The core idea here is learning to observe your thoughts without getting totally sucked into them.
Like watching clouds drift by, that analogy, instead of getting caught in the storm.
Perfect analogy. Normally the critic pops up and boom, you're either believing it, arguing with it, or trying to shove it down. Mindfulness teaches you to just notice it. There's that critical thought again. But you don't automatically jump into its drama.
You create some space between you and the thought.
Exactly. Space. Detachment. You see it as a mental event, not absolute truth. And the source points to research backing this up, like that 2020 review on mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, MBCT.
What did that find?
It showed MBCT helps reduce that negative rumination, the endless looping, and improves emotional regulation, especially for self-critical people. It helps you observe the criticism without getting overwhelmed.
So it changes how you react to the thought, even if the thought still sometimes appears.
Precisely. You're less reactive. You don't identify with the thought as much. It's a thought about failure, not I am a failure. That shift is huge.
Okay, how do you practice this? The article gave simple routines.
Yeah, really accessible stuff, like a 5-minute breathing break, just focusing on the physical sensation of breath. In, out.
And when your mind wanders to the critic.
Which it will. You just gently notice, thinking, and guide your attention back to the breath. No judgment for wandering. It's just practice in noticing and returning. Builds that observation muscle.
What else? A body scan.
Right. Tuning into physical sensations. Where are you holding tension? Jaw, shoulders, stomach. Often that physical tension is linked to the mental chatter.
So just noticing the tension can help.
Awareness is the first step to release, yeah. Just bringing kind attention to those tight spots without tensing up more about them.
And labeling thoughts, like we mentioned with journaling.
Same idea, but done mentally in the moment. Critic pops up, you silently label it. criticism,
Yeah.
or worry, then let it go. Return focus to breaths or whatever you were doing.
Reinforces that distance again. Not engaging, just naming.
Exactly. It deflates the thought's power. The article suggests trying these daily, even for a week, just to notice any shift in how you relate to that inner chatter. It's about changing the relationship.
Okay, mindfulness for distance. What's the step 4? Feels like we're building a toolkit here.
We are. Step 4 is cultivate self-compassion. And this one directly tackles that mistaken belief that being hard on yourself is motivating.
Right, the source says that's basically wrong. That being harsh actually backfires.
Total backfires. Increases stress, hurts performance, kills motivation. Self-compassion, the article argues, based on research like Dr. Kristen Neff's, is actually far more effective for resilience and growth.
Dr. Neff. She's the big name in self-compassion research, isn't she? The article breaks down her model, 3 parts.
Yep, 3 core components. First is self-kindness. Treat yourself like you'd treat a good friend who's struggling.
With warmth, understanding, not piling on.
Exactly. When you mess up or feel bad, meet it with care, not harsh judgment. Offer yourself the same gentle support you'd offer someone else.
Okay, self-kindness, what's the second part?
Common humanity, remembering that struggle, imperfection, making mistakes, it's all part of being human. You're not alone in it.
Ah, so it counters that feeling of isolation, like you're the only one who screws up.
Precisely.
Hmm.
The critic makes you feel uniquely flawed. Common humanity reminds you, nope, this is shared, this connects you to others, it doesn't isolate you, takes the shame out of it.
Powerful. And the third component?
Mindfulness again. But here, it's about being present with difficult feelings without exaggerating them or suppressing them.
So acknowledging the pain or embarrassment, this feels bad, without getting lost in it, this is the worst thing ever, or pretending it's not there. I'm fine.
Perfect summary. Balanced awareness of your actual emotional experience.
The article suggests a physical exercise for this. Hand on heart.
Yeah, simple gesture. Hand on heart or somewhere comforting. Then offer yourself kind words. This is hard right now. It's okay to struggle. I'm doing my best.
Does that actually do anything physically?
Apparently, yes. The combination of touch and kind words can activate the calming part of your nervous system, release soothing chemicals like oxytocin. It physiologically interrupts the stress response of self-criticism.
Wow. Simple, but potentially powerful. And the article mentions resources like the AvaMind app having guided exercises for this too.
That's right. Guided meditations, reflections, specifically designed to build these self-compassion skills, making it easier to integrate into daily life.
Okay, awareness, challenger frame, mindfulness, self-compassion. What's the final step? Step 5.
Step 5 brings it all together and focuses on making the change stick. Reinforce positive inner dialogue with small wins. This loops back to neuroplasticity.
Building those new pathways stronger through repetition.
Exactly. The more you practice these skills, catching, challenging, reframing, being mindful, being kind, the stronger those new neural pathways get. They become the new default over time.
So how do you reinforce it? Set goals.
Micro goals, yeah. Small, achievable daily goals related to managing the critic. Like, today I'll catch and reframe just one negative thought, or I'll journal 3 things I handled okay.
Small steps.
Tiny steps. But then, and this is key, consciously celebrate hitting that micro goal. Acknowledge it. Hey, I did it. That positive reinforcement tells your brain, this is good. Do more of this. Strengthens the new habit.
Makes sense. The article also mentioned affirmations, but with a caveat.
Use affirmations, but make sure they feel authentic and specific, not pie-in-the-sky stuff.
So less, I am a genius, and more.
More like the example, I handled that difficult conversation calmly today. Or, I finished that report even though it was tough. Something real, grounded in your actual actions and efforts.
Because that feels believable to the brain.
Exactly. Authenticity makes it stick. It reinforces a realistic, positive self-view based on actual evidence.
And the last point under reinforcement was social proof. Connecting with others.
Yeah, finding communities, maybe other founders, creatives, whatever your field is.
Yeah.
People facing similar challenges. Hearing their stories, seeing them work on their own inner critics, sharing wins. It's validating.
Reinforces that common humanity thing again and shows it's possible.
Absolutely. Seeing others do it makes it feel more achievable for you. It's powerful motivation.
Okay, that's a solid 5-step plan, but the article also mentioned pitfalls, things to watch out for.
Yeah, common traps, like trying to just ignore the critic. Bad idea usually makes it louder.
Right, gotta engage, not suppress. What else?
Think you can just will it away without practice? Nope. It takes consistent effort on the techniques.
It's a skill to build, not a switch to flip.
Exactly. Another trap. Being harsh on yourself about the process. You slip up, the critic gets loud again. Don't beat yourself up for that. Meet it with kindness, reset, keep practicing.
Be self-compassionate about practicing self-compassion.
Pretty much. And finally, expecting instant results. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Rewiring takes time. Patience is key.
Good reminders. But if you stick with it, avoid the traps. The benefits. The article listed quite a few long-term upsides.
Big ones. Better decision-making under pressure because your rational brain isn't being drowned out.
More resilience. Bouncing back from setbacks better.
Definitely. More creativity, less fear of failure holding you back.
Healthier relationships with yourself and others.
Plausibly, yeah. Less internal judgment can mean less projection outwards. And just overall, sustained mental well-being, lower burnout risk because you're not fighting yourself constantly.
That internal battle is exhausting.
Hugely draining. So freeing up that energy has massive benefits for your work, your life, everything.
And the article briefly mentioned related areas too, didn't it? Like boundaries, meditation, stress, sleep.
Yeah, just acknowledging that this inner critic work connects to broader mental wellness. Improving one area often helps others. It's all interconnected.
Okay, let's try and synthesize this. We've gone deep into this Ava Mind piece. What's the absolute core takeaway message?
I think it's that profound shift in understanding. Your inner critic isn't the real you. It's not fixed.
It's a habit. Learned wiring. Maybe outdated wiring.
Exactly. And because it's learned, because our brains can change, we can rewire it. It's not just hope. The article presents it as a science-backed, actionable process.
A process with steps, awareness, challenging, mindfulness, self-compassion, reinforcement. A toolkit, really.
Practical toolkit.
Yeah.
And using it consistently, patiently. The impact to be transformative. More strength, more confidence, more peace.
So for you listening, the message is, this is accessible. You can do this. Start small. Stay consistent.
Yeah, your inner voice doesn't have to stay a critic. It really can shift towards being more of a supportive coach.
Which leads to that final provocative thought, building on this theme of rewiring.
If this deeply ingrained pattern of negative self-talk, rooted in ancient biology and learned habits, can be understood and changed.
What else about ourselves that feels fixed? Maybe negative automatic reactions, limitations we assume are permanent.
What else might just be outdated wiring or learned habits that we actually have the power to change through awareness and practice?
What else could be rewired? Something to think about.
Definitely. We encourage you to check out AvaMind's full blog for deeper insights on this and related topics.
And maybe explore the AvaMind app itself for tools like those thought records or guided self-compassion exercises we mentioned for more moments of calm and reflection.
We'll be back with more thoughts soon.
Stay curious.